隨心，遼闊領域無限，沒有高山不可攀，萬里好似幾個彎，挑戰極限，突破界限都無限，用好本領顯我身手，闖一關再一關，活沒空襟，敞開快樂空間，自我自豪，自愛自然就燦爛，青春心，任我七海飛花。在天空海闊之間，讓美夢到無限。青春心，任我七海飛花，在天空海闊之間，讓美夢到無限。
頂唔順啊！真係頂唔順，佢太有型啦！
再無限。
Hey everybody, it's Sid from Cool Moviegram, your source for everything about cool film. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and click on the bell icon, check out my other content, leave your thoughts, and also follow me on my socials like my Instagram, which I tend to be more active on these days as well. So what's been happening? Well, just haven't really had much time this gone week to actually put out some videos because just been getting some work done on the house, so that's just kind of like taking up all my time, even though this is like my second week of time off from work. So yeah, I turned 40, so hey, you know, almost on the old man stage now, but I'm happy. It's all good. Anyways, what we have today is we're actually reviewing a film that I've been waiting for so long to get the treatment it deserves. You're talking years. Which is The Legend of Fong Sayuk, which is Fong Sayuk 1 and 2. This is an actual 88 films deluxe edition release. I mean, they've got this out on 4K, but they've also got this, I got the Blu-ray because you know, you don't want to spend too much money on physical media at the moment. So yeah, they're both 1993 films directed by Yuen, starring Jet Li. Without further ado, let's just get on with the reviews. This is going by the synopsis on the back also, I'm just going to make it a lot easier now. In The Legend of Fong Sayuk, aka Fong Sayuk, Jet Li stars as the carefree young martial arts expert who gets involved with a government official's daughter just as he discovers his family is part of a rebel resistance movement. While his fighting ability and charm made him a local champion, his epic battle for freedom will make him a legendary hero. In The Legend of Fong Sayuk 2, martial arts sensation Jet Li kicks back into action as the heroic Fong Sayuk in this explosive follow-up to the powerfully entertaining original. Having fought to save his father from the wrath of the Chinese government, Fong Sayuk joins his father's underground revolutionary organization, the Red Flower Society, but in the camp of rebels, a traitor lurks. Now at a time few can be trusted, Fong Sayuk must utilize his every skill in the fight to overthrow his nation's brutally powerful empire. Hey, my thoughts on the films. Now, for me, I mean, I personally would always put, like, especially the first Fong Sayuk movie, I would put that as Jet Li's best film. Like, one of his best films. I'd put that in, like, the big three. If there was a big three of Jet Li films, I mean, it would consist of, like, the Once Upon a Time in China movies, particularly the first two. You got the Fist of Legend and Fong Sayuk. I mean, these are, like, for me, I would say they are the best of, like, the best three films of Jet Li. I mean, there's top tier Jet Li stuff. And Yeah, so for me, I mean, what I really enjoyed about watching this movie again, especially with this beautiful restoration that 88 Films have actually released, is that, you know, the first movie, I mean, the fact that the production design was done by acclaimed filmmaker An Hui, and also you had Jingle Ma as one of the cinematographer. It's just, the film is so sumptuously made. There's so many colors. It just kind of puts it apart from like anything else. Whereas we had like Choi Hark's Once Upon a Time in China, which was captured that kind of like very kind of grim grittiness that was kind of like in what late 19th century Foshan. We kind of like see a different side where, you know, you've got the colors and, you know, just the kind of like the lavish kind of like look of the actual film itself and the sets, and you know, it kind of captures against the whole kind of the action. I mean, the tone of the film, it's kind of starts off as a very light-hearted kind of action, kind of like comedy. I mean, Jet Li is, you know, he shows one of his range in this film. He kind of shows that he's a very kind of like wow, kind of like a very talented actor who can kind of command comedic timing. He's got the charm, he's got charisma, he's got on-screen presence, and you know, but then also at the same time, you know, amongst this kind of lavishly set kind of martial arts epic, you've got some great fight scenes, albeit a lot of more waifu based fight scenes, because bearing in mind this was made in the wake of the Once Upon a Time in China movies, how they kind of revitalized kung fu cinema. I mean, this, you know, was pretty much the same kind of way, but whereas Corey Yun's which is who's also the director, had choreographed the fight scenes alongside Yuen Tak, who's again another one of the Peking opera graduates who Yuen Kwai had actually grown up with, and who's also kind of like been very active in the Shaw Brothers movies throughout the 70s and 80s in particular. You know, they did some really, you know, wild kind of like choreographed set pieces. I mean, for me, I mean, the my favorite fight scene in the film of all of them, probably one of my all-time favorite fight scenes, was the finale, especially between Jet Li and Vincent Zhao, who's playing the villain, which is the governor of the Nine Gates. He's absolutely kind of a very menacing actor, especially for his first role. And the fight scene that they have, which is kind of like underneath the gallows, which is kind of like underneath kind of like a very restricted place, just the way that it was shot, the camera movement and the movement itself, the choreography was done really well in this fight scene too. It's just the way it's kind of utilized the set itself in the finale. It was just, it's pure just slap bang entertainment. I mean, of course, when it comes to like these 4K restorations of these films, these were made before the time when they had the ability to kind of like just use CGI to kind of erase all kind of signs of the wires. You might get to see wires here and there, especially with how clear this is, but for the most part, I would say the wires were kind of like, they were hidden. You couldn't see the wires, especially when they're flying around in the air. And Josephine Sell, for me, she stole the scene as his mother, Liu Silfa. She was absolutely, she's hilarious. I mean, she's kind of they have this great relationship in this movie where instead of being just like parents, like a mother would, she's more like kind of like an older sister or a really close friend with her son, and that was kind of captured really well. They both have great chemistry and they're both able to kind of like bounce off one another really well. But then again, Josephine Xiao had that ability, considering she's such like a highly regarded award-winning actress, a veteran of the actual game. I mean, this is one of the last few films that, well, no, she was only in the industry till about what, 1997, but yeah, it was kind of it's great. I mean, Corey Yuen, again, he kind of creates this great kind of like family dynamics. I mean, which you would expect in like in a Lau Kar Leung film. But you know, it kind of like creates, you know, showing the whole kind of like the dynamics between like their family, and also when it comes to the Loy family, which is Ting Ting, which is Michelle Ray's character. Her father, played by Chen Song-yong, who's a late Taiwanese comedian. He had actually kind of like been previously, he was known in Hong Kong also for, he had featured in Prison on Fire 2 as the leader of the mainland criminals with Chow Yun-fat. And his wife Sil-wan, played by Sybil, who, I mean, it shows how they also had like a different family dynamic in comparison to Jet Li's. Whereas, you know, Tiger Lu is more like I'm the boss. I can, what I say goes in this house. And whereas, you know, the women don't really get much of a say. I mean, it kind of was a commentary on how the, you know, how some kind of like patriarchies work. And also, it just shows how, like, even though, well, Fong Sayuk's mother, Miu Sefa, was actually more or less very kind of like outspoken, very kind of headstrong, and, you know, but she still kind of respects her husband and gives him that kind of like that respect in terms where traditional Chinese society would expect a wife to give her husband. And yeah, it was quite. I mean, this was actually quite an interesting way of kind of like just showing a different side to Jet Li. I mean, these films had a lot more comedy. He's playing a lot more of a playful character, because Jet Li was also always known for playing these very stern, stoic kind of characters, especially in the Once Upon a Time in China films. There was Wong Fei-hung. I mean, this was his take on another one, because what had happened initially was that Jet Li was also working with Choi Hark at the time on kind of like developing a Dragon Inn remake along with Michelle Yeoh and also Mok Seo Chung, aka Max Mok. But Jet Li's manager had actually been gunned down in broad daylight in his office by triads, and this kind of like, you know, put Jet Li kind of like in a weird position where he felt that, you know what, I don't think I could actually do this no more. I want to get out of this. Like, I don't want to work with Choi Hark anymore, because, and also like I don't want to work with like other films because there's too much triad involvement and such as well. So he kind of went off and started off his own production company, Eastern Film Production, where you could actually see that this was actually the first film that he had actually produced as a producer himself. And he had kind of got with Corey Yuen, who was actually living not too far off from him. He kind of like said to him that he would like to work together, but then what better way, because I mean, because he had already revived Wong Fei-hung and also kind of like reinvented the kung fu cinema kind of genre, like kind of brought it back to life in like 2 years before. So they kind of like thought, why not bring another well-known character of Chinese mythology? Because, you know, Fong Sayuk, there were so many films made on him, going back to like even the late 20s or early 30s and such as well, black and white movies. And there was loads of them released like in the 40s or 50s and such and not as well, around about the same time where there were a lot of Wong Fei-hung movies. But then also, I mean, there was also Fong Sayuk movies even during the Shaw Brothers period, where a majority of them were played by Fu Xing, who always played Fong Sayuk in films like Heroes 2, Men from the Monastery, Shaolin Temple, Shaolin Martial Arts. And yeah, it kind of those, because those were pretty much working off a legend where Fong Sayuk was actually trained in the Shaolin Temple. You know, he had actually kind of like, you know, after the death of his father, he kind of like had to kind of like join rebels to kind of like stand up against the government. But then when going back into history, it's like apparently there was no actual Fong Sayuk, because Fong Sayuk was just kind of like a made-up character who's kind of like had this kind of, well, he was impervious to any sort of attacks. His skin was kind of like knife proof, and he only had one weak spot, which was like an Achilles heel. There was also things that Fong Sayuk he also used as like an alternative, where people who were anti-government rebels, they would always say, oh, our leader is Fong Sayuk, which but there was no actual record of this person actually existing and having these fights and whatnot as well. That would mean, because they have kind of taken some of the characters that you would already see in these stories. Like, for example, you got his parents, Fong Tak and Mu Chofa and his mother, but then also Tiger Lui, who's also always known as like one of his enemies, because in some of the stories they say Tiger Lui is the one that killed him, but then the other ones are saying that they were right. In particular, the Shaw Brothers Fu Sheng movies, where Fong Sayuk, or even Fong Shiyu as he's known in Mandarin, had a fight with Tiger Lui on those tolls and he killed him, and that's where at one moment where Pai Mei had actually found his weak spot, kind of found out where it was, his weak spot, and that's why a lot of those movies ended the same way. It's like they were shot the same scene, they just used it many times. And but then this time around, he's Tiger Lui is not playing a negative character, he's playing a rather comedic role, and overall it was actually done pretty well, and it was actually kind of because I think Jet Li had always wanted to do a comedy by the looks of it, but then he was always being casted in like these stern, serious roles. But then, I mean, it proved to be very successful, because that's what the first Fong Sayuk in particular was very successful. It was one of the highest grossing films of the year. And the second one, well, yeah, I mean, the cinematography was not really as great, but it still is quite colourful. Some really good set pieces, and the fight sequences again are really good. But then sometimes it just seems the plot seemed a bit kind of like flat and all over the place at times. I mean, but it still moves along really well. I mean, both these films are so fast paced, and they're so kind of like well made, and both really entertaining films. The highlight in the second one is for me is at the end, when he's kind of like has like a bunch of katanas, and he blindfolds himself, and he actually just so he doesn't want to see him killing his own brothers when they turn against him. And then that fight scene was done really well. I mean, just the whole kind of like those red leaves kind of like just blowing around in the wind, falling off the trees, and he's just walking off in slow-mo. It's just really cool. And I mean, some really kind of like inventive set pieces in the second one. I mean, Yuen is actually really, really, really funny in this movie, and he has like a very kind of small role as Li Gobang. Not cowardly, but someone who just says safety first to everything, and he's kind of like he's always staying away from conflict. And you always keep saying that he doesn't know kung fu, but when in actuality you find out that he was also a student of the same master as Mu Sofa, who's Fong Sayuk's mother, and they had kind of like a link from the past. And there are some like silly hijinks in this. I mean, the fact is that it just doesn't feel as broad as maybe Last Hero of China, which was the Wong Fei Hung parody movie that Jet Li did with Wong Jing, which is kind of released in the same year as well. And I mean, this year alone, Jet Li had made about 5 or 6 movies that had come out. And so it was pretty much a very busy year for him. And but overall, I mean, it still was a really good, well choreographed fight, some great fight sequences, especially the scene where Fong Sayuk has to actually kind of like win for the princess's hand in marriage. I mean, the scene where it kind of starts off is very much very similar to like the kind of like the human power rugby thing that was going on in Dragon Lord. It's very similar to that, and some really cool kind of like sets that were built and used in this fight scene. I mean, the late Ji Junhua, he was a really good bad guy, but he just was not really effective as the way Vincent Zhao was in the original, who's absolutely incredible as a bad guy, and that was his first role as well. And then Ji Chun-ha, who probably, well, due to the fact that he's actually worked with Jet Li 3 times before, which was in his first 3 movies, which is the Shaolin Temple movies, which is Shaolin Temple, Kids from Shaolin, the martial arts of Shaolin. I mean, he's a great martial artist. He was a great martial artist, but then due to health problems, he then ended up quitting movies, and then sadly had passed away not long after. But then, I just think that he just wasn't really as strong of a villain as as the governor of Nine Gates was in the first movie. But yeah, it was quite interesting to see like the whole kind of politics of it. I mean, Adam Cheng, who's a veteran, is in these movies, especially he only comes in the first movie on. He's only there for a short period. He gets more of a prominent role in the sequel, and you know, he has a great strong presence. I mean, considering he's played like this character Changalok before. If I was to rate these movies now, I would say the first one for me, yeah, Fong Sayuk 1 is 5 out of 5. You know, one of Jet Li's top tier movies, definitely without a doubt. A great kind of like kung fu comedy, and especially with the fact that we've got these movies in their original language, no kind of like ridiculous edits, and you know, it's just not the horrible botched job that Dimension or the Weinsteins had actually done when they released this movie as The Legend. And you know, they took out the music score, you know, from the original movies, because I saw these movies a long time ago, back in I think it was 98, 99, when they came out on Channel 4 late night, which was in the original language and in subtitles. So for me, when I watched these films dubbed in English and completely butchered, I just thought that you know, they'd absolutely ruined the movies themselves for me. It just took away from what was possibly Jet Li's couple of his best movies. So you know, for me, 5 out of 5 for the first one, and the second one, yeah, again, most of the time it does hit the mark. And there are a few things that would be changed, that could have been better, but then overall I would still say it's a 4 out of 5 movie. Definitely worth watching, especially if you enjoyed the first one. I mean, the action, I would say in the second one was probably, there was better choreography, but in terms of like the first, I just think the first one was just overall as a movie, it's just a hell of a lot better. Right now, yeah, let's get into the Blu-ray. And of course, yeah, you got these films on 4K. So yeah, I mean, just look at this. It comes in with this flap. The only gripe I have with it is this little cardboard flap. It does not come with anything to stick onto the actual case, because it doesn't fit. Otherwise, none of the supplements would fit. And then so it comes with this flap, which has like information on the movies, and also the specifications of the Blu-ray and the features. And yeah, I mean, just look at this artwork. I mean, again, the artwork itself is absolutely amazing. I mean, Kung Fu Bob really outdone it, really kind of like pulled out all the stops. He just did an absolutely incredible job on the release, because at the same time you got that on the main art, but then you've got these digibooks, where the Blu-ray comes in, and of course this is for the first one, yeah. And then on the inside, you just look at that artwork though. Look how amazing it looks. You know, just look at it, and yeah, that's the original poster for the movie when it came out in Hong Kong, and that's the Blu-ray disc there. And then I think the artwork on this one is definitely better than the second one. It's kind of like, you know, just captures the mood and the feel of the movie really well. And just like the first one, you got the second one, you got the poster there from the original theatrical poster, and also you got the Blu-ray art, the Blu-ray itself. And also on top of this is, okay, you've got Kung Fu Bob's artwork, yeah, for Fong Sayuk 1, and then Fong Sayuk 2. I mean, just these are absolutely, both of them are really, really well done. It's just great. And then there's Peter Chan-Lung, who's kind of like been in like films with Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, and also now Jet Li. And the fact is, he's also playing, pretty much the way that he looks and the way he acts is pretty much the same character that he played in The Prodigal Son. As Jet Li's kind of like, as Yuen Bu's servant. And then we also get this amazing booklet which has some really good, really interesting essays, the kind of information about the movies and the history of Fong Sayuk and everything. Really good booklet. Now in terms of the bonus features, now of course this is going off the specs of the Blu-ray, and it's a deluxe edition rigid slipcase with brand new artwork from RP Kung Fu Bob O'Brien. You got 4K restorations of the original Hong Kong versions of The Legend of Fong Sayuk 1 and 2 presented in HD, 1080p Blu-ray, uncompressed original Cantonese mono soundtracks. There's no English dub yet, to be fair. There's no other way of watching this movie apart from being in its original language. You've got audio commentary by Chris Poggiali and Frankie Balboa for the first one. This was off their Ronin Flicks release that they'd actually included on this one. So that was a shortened version. So on this one, I mean, there are some gaps in certain scenes that were not included. And trust me, I would say they make for a really fun watch, especially Frankie Balboa, aka Times Square Kung Fu, who's also got he's a film critic and also does a lot of restoration and color grading work, and also he reviews a lot of movies too. He just makes me laugh. This is some of the things that he came out, especially when Jet Li is running in the race at the start of the movie. He goes, "Oh, he looks like one of those remote control cars," and how to win our women over, we need to start reciting more poetry. And I'm like, you know what? I might have to do that again sometime. Yeah, I'll try that with the missus. Yeah, recite some poetry. And of course, you got an audio commentary by Peter Glagowski and Frankie Balboa for the part 2, which is a brand new commentary, which is done for this release. And they even kind of mention how great the restoration looks in these films, in these releases. And yeah, it was actually, again, both of these commentaries, they're quite informative and they are kind of like quite interesting, because they also kind of like cover how someone like Josephine Xiao, who played Jet Li's mother in this film, who was this very acclaimed actress, she stole the show, but the fact is her tinnitus had actually kind of like caused her career to kind of end earlier, and what she's been doing afterwards. Really fun listen. Both of these commentaries are really fun to watch. And you got a Hit Hard and Fly High, an interview with director Yuen Kwai, Legend of Fong Sayuk, which is the first one. So I think this was probably from the release that was done by Dragon Dynasty, like about 10 odd years ago or something, more than 10-15 years ago. You got The Pen is Mightier Than the Sword, an interview with writer Jeff Lau on the first movie disc. Individual digipacks to hold each film with new artwork by RP Kung Fu Bob O'Brien, double-sided fold-out poster, both done by him. You got 40-page booklet featuring new writing on the film by James Oliver, Paul Bramhall and David West. Definitely, I would say, this is a really, really good read as well. With some images from the actual book, from the films itself. And yeah, I would say, yeah, this, someone who is actually kind of like, I remember when I watched both of these Fong Sayuk movies, I kind of like, when I saw when they came on Channel 4 back in like the late 90s, I kind of had them on VHS after taping them, and I would watch them like so many times. One of my friends from school, he kind of like was also a big fan of these movies too, and yeah, so we kind of like, that was kind of our thing. It's like, yeah, these were great movies, and finally they've been given the release and the attention and the kind of like the treatment that these films deserve. My friend Hassan Razak, who's actually he does a lot of quality checking for these. He actually told me about this being done back in like June, July time, something like that, like sometime in the summer. He had told me that, yeah, he's actually doing quality checking for Fong Sayuk on behalf of 88 films, and I thought, what? I was like, yo, I knew it, and then as soon as the pre-orders were up, I pre-ordered this. I thought this is something I need to get, And I've just kind of say shout out to Hassan. Really, thanks. They've done, and 88 Films have done an amazing job. The picture quality, the sound quality, the fact that you got the uncompressed mono sound. So it's got the same music, the background score, the sound effects, and the color grading is just really kind of like, the colors come to life and just kind of brings a new life to these movies. And yeah, I would definitely say the release, the packaging, the bonus content, the commentaries, and all the other goodies and whatnot. Overall, I say this is a 5 out of 5 movie. 5 out of 5 Blu-ray. Again, 88 Films have smashed it out the park. I would say definitely if you can get this, you can get this on 88 Films' website, wherever you can, Amazon, whatever. Buy this, especially if you're a fan of Jet Li and if you like these movies, if you were let down by the horrible hack jobs that the Dimension Films releases did. I would say, you know what, throw those in the bin and get these, because to be honest, there's no better way of watching these movies in their original language with the original score, and no kind of unnecessary cuts. Yeah, well, that was my review of The Legend of Fong release from 88 Films. Okay, what would you say are your favorite Jet Li films? I mean, let me know in the comments. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Take care.